A combined effort between International Launch Services, Khrushchev State Research and Production
hey guys,
Space Center,
here,
IntelSat, and SSL. You're now seeing live the ILS Proton launch vehicle with the IntelSat-31 satellite on board.
IntelSat-31 will launch from Pad 24 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, and it's the 12th IntelSat Proton launch. It's the 411th Proton launch overall, the 93rd ILS Proton launch, and the second ILS Proton launch of 2016, and the 28th SSL launch aboard Proton.
Liftoff is scheduled for June 9th at 1:10 p.m. in Baikonur, Kazakhstan, 3:10 a.m. here in Washington, D.C. at IntelSat's U.S. Administrative Headquarters and the ILS Broadcast Center, and 12:10 a.m. in California at SSL. The countdown to the launch of IntelSat-31 begins now.
Well, it should began a while ago, but... So we get to see the launch of two of the largest launch vehicles currently available today. Today on this one, we get to see Proton and Delta IV Heavy.
I'm Karen Monahan with ILS. Welcome to our live coverage of the launch of IntelSat-31, the third Proton launch this year. Joining me is John Paul May, Vice President of Programs and Operations for ILS and a frequent co-host of the launch program. Thanks, John, for joining us.
Thanks, Karen. Now, this is an important launch for Intelsat and their customers. Now, here's a little more about Intelsat-31. Today's launch of Intelsat-31 will inject the satellite into a planned super-synchronous transfer orbit to enable the high-capacity KU and C-band satellite to be finally located at Intelsat's 95 degrees west position. Intelsat-31's design is based on the decades-proven SSL 1300 platform and is designed to provide service for a minimum of 15 years.
Last fall, ILS announced a multi-launch agreement, or MLA, with Intelsat to launch 5 satellites over a 7-year period. Here's more on the unique partnership from Kirk Peischer, ILS President.
The multi-launch agreements are essentially a partnership with the key customers out there that launch frequently. And this will provide them flexibility. It provides them assured access to space. And along with that, we're providing them the means to restore confidence and trust in Proton and Khrushchev and ILS. The customer community wants Proton in the marketplace. In the early 2000s, we had up to 5 launch service providers. And in the last few years, it's been basically 2 key players. That has migrated back to 3, which appears to be essentially the sweet spot. And the customer wants that launch diversity. They need that launch diversity, and they require that launch diversity. That is the basic premise as to why the MLAs were signed, to give them that assured capability to space and to keep Proton in the marketplace.
Intelsat is an innovator in global satellite communications technology, serving thousands of organizations and billions of people worldwide with broadband connectivity, video broadcasting, secure satellite communications, and seamless mobility service, really changing the way we live. Here's a little more on Intelsat.
Envision the future and the satellite network that will take you there. Connect anytime, anywhere with tomorrow's technology. Transform and maximize your opportunities. Intelsat. From the launch of the commercial satellite industry in 1964, Intelsat pushed innovation to deliver value to our customers, anticipating their needs far into the future. Today, Intelsat provides a critical layer of the global communications infrastructure. Our powerful satellite fleet covers 99% of the world's population, supporting services that span from video distribution to broadband connectivity. Intelsat combines the most robust satellite fleet in the industry with Intelsat-1, a terrestrial network of fiber optic cable, teleports, and multiplex video and data platforms.
Here it goes again. It's not me. them.
IntelSat's engineers and design teams are among the most respected in the satellite industry, questioning the status quo and driving new innovations for the benefit of our customers. Consider the IntelSat Epic high-throughput satellite platform, a giant leap in space technology. Epic will deliver maximum throughput, performance and efficiency with a flexible open architecture. IntelSat builds its network for the future, positioning our customers for continued success. With IntelSat, envision, connect, and transform. IntelSat's network supports a diverse set of applications. IntelSat's broadband customers, including wireless service providers, are expanding to the most remote regions with the confidence of carrier-grade network availability. And global corporations are extending operations to new markets, expanding data networks with ease, speed, and control. With IntelSat's mobility solutions, aeronautical and maritime service providers are connecting remote assets, people, and operations, sending data from anywhere to anywhere, and delivering connectivity in the air and at sea. With IntelSat's media solutions, broadcasters, content providers, and direct-to-home platforms are securing the highest potential audience access for their content through IntelSat's video neighborhoods, efficiently reaching viewers, whether in targeted regions or around the globe. Government, military, and defense customers are leveraging end-to-end solutions from IntelSat to expand communications with flexibility and security. Improving operational efficiency, we reduce government costs through commercially hosted payloads and build complex regional and global networks for mission-critical ISR and in-theater support using our secure broadband infrastructure. IntelSat connects you where you live and where you work, no matter how remote. IntelSat connects you everywhere, on land, at sea, and in the sky. IntelSat. Envision, connect, transform.
The IntelSat Globalized Network combines the world's largest satellite backbone with terrestrial infrastructure and managed services to deliver high-quality, cost-effective video and broadband services anywhere in the world. Now with more about the IntelSat-31 satellite is Steve Spengler, IntelSat CEO.
This is an exciting time for IntelSat. IntelSat-31 is the second of 4 satellites we are launching in 2016. IntelSat-31 will provide services to DirecTV Latin America, a division of AT&T, one of IntelSat's largest customers, and the region's premier provider of direct-to-home television services. It will also provide valuable C-band services for other customers across the Latin American region. This satellite strengthens our video distribution neighborhoods serving Latin America. It provides redundancy and resiliency for the DirecTV network and ensures that its customers will have reliable access to its high-quality television programming. IntelSat-31 will be used primarily as an in-orbit backup satellite. Its custom-designed payload underscores DirecTV Latin America's commitment to providing their subscribers with the highest reliability. IntelSat's investment in the satellite demonstrates our commitment to DirecTV and to all of our customers across Latin America. We thank our partners, SSL and ILS, and the entire IntelSat team. We appreciate your hard work on this mission. Lastly, thank you to DirecTV Latin America for your trust and partnership on the IntelSat 30 and 31 programs.
Recently, I had the opportunity to interview Thierry Guillaumin, IntelSat's Executive Vice President and CTO, not only about the IntelSat-31 satellite, but also about IntelSat's history with ILS and Khrushchev and the multi-launch agreement.
Our relation with ILS and Khrushchev goes back many years. The first launch was Galaxy 25 in 1997, and we've had a number since then. I think it's been generally very positive, very successful, and I would like to specifically acknowledge the initiatives that are being taken by the current Director General of Khrushchev, Mr. Andrei Kalinowski, to enhance, to modernize the quality control program of the rocket production, and to offer to strategic customers like IntelSat more visibility into this program. This is really important for us. Supersynchronous transfer orbit, that's something that we have used with Proton before. It's really about using the most of the rocket performance. It's combining the capability of Proton with the design of the spacecraft and getting to the most energy efficient solution to get our spacecraft to orbit using the minimum amount of fuel on the spacecraft, because then this fuel can be used in orbit to extend the life and reach a lifespan of possibly 20 years or more. Let's say a few words about this multi-launch agreement we have with ILS. It's very critical for a satellite operator like IntelSat to have a very robust, vibrant ecosystem of solutions for our access to space. Of course, Proton is one of these solutions. Launching on time, launching reliably is absolutely integral to what we do. That's how we deliver quality service to our customers. So this agreement does several things for us. It gives us an ability to plan better into the future. Obviously, it gives us more choice. And I would say it's also an important risk mitigation in case of launch delays, should they occur with any of the other launch service providers. IntelSat-31 is a very important satellite. It will deliver services for DirecTV Latin America, a division of AT&T. This is one of our largest customers, and this is the premier provider of direct-to-home television services across the region. IntelSat-31 also strengthens further our video distribution neighborhood in that part of the world. And to DirecTV, it provides to the network resiliency, redundancy, and ensures to its customers a mostly reliable access to the high-quality video programming of DirecTV. Finally, there is also a very valuable C-band payload on the spacecraft to deliver other services across Latin America. I think what we really love with this business is that it's all about people, teamwork, people coming together, and I would really like to thank our friends at SSL who built another great spacecraft. I would like to thank ILS, Krunishev for doing the hard work to prepare for this mission. And of course, I would like to thank our teams and my colleagues at IntelSat for their work in coordinating another beautiful program.
Okay, we're just under 12 minutes from launch and counting down. So John, have you received any weather updates from the launch site?
Yeah, the most recent weather readings I've received show that the current conditions are cloudy with a visibility of 8 to 10 kilometers. Predicted liftoff temperature of 25.9 degrees C or about 78.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Ground winds are out of the southeast at 10 to 15 meters per second, which is well within the ground limits. But the upper level winds, which are always critical, are also within limit at all altitudes. So right now the weather is well within constraints, and currently we are go for launch.
Brilliant.
So even in the most extreme temperatures, Proton was designed to withstand the year-round weather conditions at the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Here's a little more on Proton's ability to launch and operate in challenging weather. Proton is specifically designed to launch in most weather conditions, such as extreme hot or cold. In fact, Proton can launch between -76 and +140 degrees Fahrenheit. In the middle of winter, the temperatures can dip as low as -30 degrees Fahrenheit at night, with the lowest temperatures on record being even colder. Temperatures can also rise to as high as 125 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, with the highest temperatures on record being much warmer. Proton handles these extreme weather conditions by controlling the environments inside the payload fairing and the use of underground storable propellants. Harsh upper-level winds are really the only weather condition that could cause a delay in Proton flight, and traditionally in Baikonur, low upper-level winds are the norm.
The ILS Proton mission for the IntelSat-31 satellite involves 5 breeze end burns and takes 15 hours and 31 minutes from liftoff to injection into the planned supersynchronous transfer orbit. The following animation sequence explains the various milestones that occur during this particular mission. This is the Super Synchronous Transfer Orbit, or SSTO, flight design for the IntelSat-31 mission. For today's launch, the ILS Proton will utilize a 5-burn mission design for the Breeze-M upper stage and will lift off from pad 24 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan with the IntelSat-31 satellite on board. The ILS Proton is a 3-stage rocket with a restartable Breeze-M upper stage and stands 191 feet, or 58.2 meters tall. The Proton's first 3 stages propel the orbital unit, consisting of the Breeze-M, payload adapter system, and IntelSat-31 satellite, into a suborbital trajectory during the first 10 minutes of the mission. After that, the Breeze-M takes the spacecraft through the parking, intermediate, transfer, and supersynchronous transfer orbits during the remaining 15 hours and 21 minutes of the flight. The liftoff phase begins with the ignition of the 6 powerful first-stage engines, which generate 2.4 million pounds of thrust at sea level. As the ILS Proton lifts off from its launch pad, it immediately executes a roll maneuver to align its pitch axis with the flight launch azimuth of 61.3 degrees as it travels in an east-northeast direction across Kazakhstan towards the Pacific Ocean. The first stage engines fire for a little more than 2 minutes, during which time the ILS Proton experiences maximum dynamic pressure. Soon after that event, the first stage separates from the second stage. As the second stage ignites, 540,000 pounds of thrust is generated for 3.5 minutes, at which point stage 2 separates, allowing the third stage engine to ignite and generate 131,000 pounds of thrust for an additional 4 minutes. Soon after third stage ignition, the payload fairing, consisting of 2 symmetrical payload fairing halves, separates and is jettisoned from the launch vehicle. Having traveled from Baikonur to southern Russia at 51.5 degrees north latitude, stage 3 separates from the orbital unit, which is now moving at about 7,300 meters per second, or 4.5 miles per second relative velocity in a suborbital trajectory. At this point in the mission, the Breeze-M upper stage, designed to inject payloads into a wide variety of orbits, takes over. The first of 5 Breeze-M burns in IntelSat-31's SSTO mission occurs about 1.5 minutes after the third stage separation. The purpose of this first Breeze-M burn is to achieve a low-Earth circular parking orbit of 173 kilometers and spans from Siberia to Russia's east coast. 1 hour, 35 minutes after the main engine cutoff of the first burn, or MECO-1, the second Breeze-M burn begins, placing the spacecraft into an elliptical orbit called the intermediate orbit. Apogee is increased to 6,000 kilometers, perigee to 290 kilometers, and inclination slightly reduced to 51 degrees. This nearly 20-minute burn spans from the southern tip of the Japan island chain to 600 miles northeast of New Zealand. In a 20.5-minute sequence, the third Breeze-M burn is executed, the auxiliary propellant tank, or APT, is jettisoned, and the fourth Breeze-M burn is completed, resulting in the transfer orbit, a more elliptical orbit with a higher apogee. In the transfer orbit, the apogee is greatly increased to 65,038 kilometers, more closely matching supersynchronous altitude, while perigee is slightly increased to 475 kilometers, and inclination reduced to 50.5 degrees. The third and fourth Breeze-M burns span from the northwest of India to southwest Australia. The Breeze-M performs various attitude maneuvers during the coast phases between the 5 burns, allowing IntelSat-31 and the Breeze-M to be exposed to the warming rays of the sun at pre-programmed solar illumination angles designed to meet power and thermal requirements. 10.5 hours later, the orbital unit performs a large plane change maneuver, greatly decreasing inclination from 50.5 to 29.6 degrees during the 5th and final Breeze-M burn. Apogee is slightly decreased to 65,000 kilometers, and perigee increased considerably to 3,503 kilometers. The 5th Breeze-M burn lasts approximately 8 minutes. About 13 minutes after MECO-5, IntelSat-31 is separated from the Breeze-M high above Papua New Guinea, having reached its targeted supersynchronous transfer orbit. The total mission duration is 15 hours and 31 minutes in length. IntelSat-31 is a flexible, powerful satellite built by SSL for Intelsat. It will be co-located with IntelSat-30 at 95 degrees west longitude, where it will augment and provide redundancy and reliability for direct-to-home broadcast services in Latin America. The 20-kilowatt satellite will be used by DirecTV Latin America for high-definition programming on the continent.
The first burn of the BRISM upper stage is scheduled for completion about 16 minutes into the flight, and our broadcast will conclude at that time since the upper stage with the IntelSat-31 spacecraft will be in a planned blackout period when it will be out of range of our tracking stations. We'll receive additional updates after it comes back into view in about an hour. You can stay up to date on the status of the missions by visiting the ILS website, ilslaunch.com, by following us on Twitter, and by liking us on Facebook. Located in the heart of Silicon Valley, Space Systems Loral is a world-leading provider of satellites and innovative spacecraft systems. SSL satellites connect billions of people around the world with internet connectivity, mobile communications for ships and planes, and Ultra HD television delivered directly to homes. Here's a little bit more about SSL and the performance, power, and reliability of the IntelSat-31 satellite.
SSL, a world leader in commercial satellite manufacturing with roughly 80 geosynchronous satellites currently on orbit, built IntelSat-31, a powerful satellite providing redundancy and reliability for direct-to-home television services in Latin America. The satellite, with its DLA-2 payload designed for DirecTV Latin America, complements the IntelSat-30 spacecraft and its DLA-1 payload, which has operated flawlessly since its launch in late 2014. The 20-kilowatt KU and C-band satellite is based on SSL's powerful and flexible 1300 platform and has a high-precision antenna, ensuring the spacecraft delivers exceptional quality and high reliability. IntelSat-31 DLA-2 will be co-located with and provide backup for IntelSat-30 with the DLA-1 payload, providing high-definition direct-to-home services in 9 different countries. The redundancy of the DLA-2 payload reflects DirecTV's commitment to providing its subscribers with guaranteed uninterrupted service and the highest reliability in the region. As world leaders in the industry, SSL and Intelsat have teamed on satellites for more than 4 decades. This long-term relationship and the trust established between the companies allows for a streamlined satellite development process and enabled efficient collaboration with the DirecTV customer. The value of this teamwork has enabled a new satellite that will bring unprecedented reliability to direct-to-home services in Latin America. SSL thanks Intelsat, DirecTV, ILS, and the hundreds of engineers, managers, and technicians at SSL whose dedicated work helped to make this satellite a success.
So before I turn things over to John for the launch, I wanted to mention a historic milestone for our parent company, Khrunichev. April 30th, 2016 marked 100 years since the inception of Khrunichev, one of the core enterprises of the Russian space industry and one of the world's leading developers and manufacturers of rocket and space technology. Khrunichev's technology is widely used to implement projects on Earth study exploration and many other innovations in space. Khrunichev has over 20 years of successful experience in commercial launch services under the auspices of ILS. Among Khrunichev's customers and partners are national space agencies, aerospace organizations, and industrial enterprises from dozens of countries. Khrunichev will continue to provide for many years to come the most advanced technology and equipment to enable continued advancement in space. Now, John, on to you.
So we're about 35 seconds from launch. The final go for launch polling has been completed. Everything is so far is go for launch. Today's a little bit breezy out there in Baikonur. You can see the camera shaking a little bit because of the telephoto lens, but we're well within constraints for launch.
15.
T-minus 15. T-minus 10.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
And we have liftoff. Liftoff of an ILS Proton from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan with the IntelSat-31 satellite on board.
It's a quick question, if anybody knows, what is that?
About 10 seconds after liftoff, the vehicle does a roll maneuver to align the launch vehicle pitch axis with the northwest easterly launch azimuth.
I don't know, it does not seem very cloudy to me.
Just past T plus 40 seconds. The vehicle will soon experience maximum dynamic pressure, or max Q, which is when the aerodynamic stresses on the vehicle and atmospheric flight are at their peak. For Proton, max Q occurs about 1 minute and 2 seconds after liftoff at a velocity of Mach 1.6, and sometimes accompanied by visible condensation if atmospheric and lighting conditions are favorable. Coming up on just past T minus 1, and there you can see the condensation. Everything seems to be proceeding nominally as the vehicle ascends over the Cosmodrome in a northeasterly direction with a flight launch azimuth of 61.3 degrees.
Yes, so let's
T
switch
plus
over to
90
this.
seconds. And we're going to be coming up on the first stage separation from the second stage. Now that's set to occur at 2 minutes into the flight. On clear nights, but unfortunately today is a day, observers at the Baikonur Cosmodrome may be able to see a bit of a halo effect as the second stage engines ignite prior to the separation of the first stage. We call that a hot ignition of the second stage.
Staging.
Coming up on T plus 2 minutes.
Yep, I think. Yep, it's up.
And waiting for confirmation that we have ignition of the second stage from Baikonur. Okay, still waiting with that confirmation, but the second stage should be firing at this point. Vehicle should be continuing to burn its powerful second stage engines as it continues to travel northeasterly across Kazakhstan and toward Russian territory. And we do have confirmation of ignition of the second stage and good separation from the first stage.
Good. Last time you said.
And we have a confirmation of a planned level of thrust on all four second stage engines. Now, the second stage will operate for about 3 minutes and 27 seconds. The next key mission milestone will be the separation of third stage from the second stage at L plus 5 minutes and 27 seconds. 20 seconds after that event, the payload-fairing pyros will fire, and that will separate the two payload-fairing halves and jettison them from the vehicle. As Proton travels northeasterly from Kazakhstan into Russian territory, our viewers will notice some brief planned time lags in our reporting of key mission milestones, as the telemetry has to be relayed through multiple ground stations.
The first burn of the BRIESM upper stage is scheduled for completion about 16 minutes into the flight. Our live coverage will conclude shortly afterwards with mission updates posted on the ILS website, Facebook, and Twitter pages. The Proton rocket is a heritage launch vehicle with a robust heavy launch lift capability and is one of the most successful heavy lift launch vehicles in the history of spaceflight. All Proton rockets are expertly manufactured at Khrunichev in Moscow and then transported to Baikonur via rail. Here's a brief look at some of the engineering behind the Proton launch vehicle. The total height of an ILS Proton is between 184 and 191 feet, around the same height as a 19-story building. Its gross liftoff weight can be around 705,000 kilograms, or 1,554,000 pounds, depending on payload and fuel weights. Proton's initial launch was on July 16, 1965, with the Proton 1 spacecraft. If we begin our in-depth look at the Proton in a manner chronologically consistent with the launch phases, we see that the first stage consists of a central tank containing the oxidizer tank surrounded by 6 fuel tanks. Each fuel tank also carries one of 6 RD-276 engines that provide first-stage power. Total first-stage vacuum-rated level thrust is 11 meganewtons, or 2.5 million pounds of force.
That's a lot.
The second stage is a conventional cylindrical design, and it's powered by 3 RD-210 engines plus 1 RD-211 engine. It develops a vacuum thrust of 2.4 meganewtons, or 540,000 pounds of force. The third stage is powered by 1 RD-213 engine and develops thrust of 583 kilonewtons, or 131,000 pounds of force. It has a 4-nozzle vernier engine that produces thrust of 31 kilonewtons, or 7,000 pounds of force. Guidance, navigation, and control of the Proton-M during operation of the first 3 stages is carried out by a triple redundant closed-loop digital avionics system mounted in the Proton's third stage. The BreezeM upper stage is powered by 1 pump-fed gimbaled main engine that develops thrust of 20 kilonewtons, or 4,500 pounds of force. It is composed of a central core and an auxiliary propellant tank, which is jettisoned in flight following depletion. The BreezeM control system includes an onboard computer, a 3-axis gyro-stabilized platform, and a navigation system. Finally, the payload fairing. It consists of 2 symmetrical payload fairing halves and a static envelope diameter of up to 3.87 meters. There are multiple payload fairing designs presently qualified for flight, including standard commercial payload fairings developed specifically to meet the needs of ILS customers. The payload fairing for commercial launches aboard an ILS Proton separates at the nose cone in a planned maneuver, leaving the BreezeM and the spacecraft together, known as the orbital unit, to continue the journey to its planned orbit. That's an at-a-glance look at the Proton and its stages.
So since our last update, we've gotten a confirmation that the Stage 2 has completed its job, and we have Stage 2-3 separation, and payload fairing jettison has also been confirmed. Now, payload fairing jettison occurs at a velocity of about 4,600 meters per second, or 2.9 miles per second, at an altitude of 137 kilometers. And our next major milestone happens in a few minutes, and that's going to be the separation of the Proton's third stage from the BreezeM upper stage.
Now let's take a chronological look at the IntelSat-31 journey to launch. The journey from concept to launch takes about 2 years for a commercial satellite, beginning with the satellite operator and the manufacturer's designs, then progressing to integration and launch. Each launch campaign begins with the arrivals of the spacecraft and the crew in Baikonur. The satellite arrives via the massive Antonov cargo jet at Yubileyny Airfield in Baikonur and is carefully offloaded to a rail car from the Antonov's cargo bay. The spacecraft makes a 6-hour rail trip from Yubileyny Airfield to the launch processing facility in Baikonur in a thermally controlled environment. System tests and other operations to include fueling of the spacecraft are performed by the crew in the high bay. At this point, joint operations begin. The skilled, experienced teams work side by side to bring all the flight hardware together. In Hall 101 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the satellite is mated to the BreezeM restartable upper stage. It's then rotated horizontally to be encapsulated in the payload fairing. Joint testing accompanies each mating activity to verify proper functioning of the many components. From this point forward, the spacecraft fairing and upper stage are referred to as the ascent unit. The booster stages are mated to form the entire assembly of the Proton integrated launch vehicle in Hull 111. The integrated launch vehicle is then fueled at the BreezeM fueling station. After BreezeM fueling, the rocket rolls to the launch pad. Slowly and carefully, the hydraulic erectors move the rocket from a horizontal to a vertical position to be placed in the mobile service tower. The mobile service tower moves in to provide services and accessibility to the launch vehicle and spacecraft. As a tribute to Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, Proton is rolled out to the launch pad at precisely 6:30 a.m. So, John, one of the questions we often get is about what happens after Proton completes its mission, completes its job, and it's up to the satellite. What's the next step?
Well, our broadcast takes us through the first BreezeM burn, and after the broadcast completes, the BreezeM will execute 4 additional burns before separating the spacecraft into the planned supersynchronous transfer orbit at about 15 hours and 31 minutes after liftoff. The ILS Proton will have completed the mission of transferring the satellite from the surface of our planet into an elliptical orbit with an apogee of 65,000 kilometers or 40,000 miles. Once the satellite enters the transfer orbit, IntelSat is expected to make contact with it and confirm signal acquisition. IntelSat expects to report that it has acquired the signal from IntelSat-31 near midnight UTC. At that point, IntelSat will take over telemetry, tracking, and control of the satellite, and the satellite will then start to execute a series of planned operations over the next several days, which include solar array deployment, antenna reflector deployment, and a series of orbital maneuvers. Now, these maneuvers will decrease the orbit inclination to 0 degrees and raise the perigee and decrease the apogee, resulting in a circular geosynchronous orbit over the equator. Following a period of testing, the satellite will operate in geosynchronous orbit to provide flexible global coverage for IntelSat and its customers.
John, you mentioned the Supersynchronous Transfer Orbit, or SSTO orbit, and for our viewers, could you explain what the benefit is to the customer to use this specific kind of flight design?
Well, the SSTO has an apogee that's much higher than the typical geosynchronous transfer orbit. And so ours, in today's case, 65,000 kilometers. And at that apogee, the effects of gravity are greatly reduced on the satellite. So therefore, the maneuvers that are to take place to insert the spacecraft into its final orbit use a lot less of the precious fuel that extends the life of the satellite.
Thank you. So the BRISM upper stage is designed for injecting large payloads into a low, medium, or high geosynchronous orbit. The main engine can be restarted 8 times in flight and allows precision placement of the spacecraft into orbit. Let's learn more about Proton's technology and its role in the IntelSat-31 mission now. The orbital unit, consisting of the spacecraft together with the adapter, separation system, and BRISM, travels at approximately 7,300 meters per second at the moment of separation, or more than 16,000 miles per hour. The BRISM ignites for its first burn about 1.5 minutes later and lasts about 4.5 minutes. About 4 minutes after the first main engine cutoff, or MECO-1, the vehicle is scheduled to go out of range of our ground tracking stations. After about 70 minutes, we will reacquire the signal prior to the second burn of the BRISM. So, John, do you have anything new from the mission team on the mission, the status of the mission?
So, yes, I was just speaking with Karen Young out in Baikonur. She's confirmed that Stage 3 has completed its job. It's shut down, separated from the BRISM, and the BRISM has actually started its first of the 5 planned breezes for today's mission.
That's great. Thank you. The Angara family of rockets is the future of Russian space technology. From the Angara 1.2 rocket lifting lighter payloads to the Angara 5, the heavy lift launcher, Angara will address an entire range of spacecraft masses. ILS President Kirk Peischer returns to give a quick update on Angara.
ILS, along with Khrushchev, is determining how to compete in that lighter payload class while still maintaining our capability in the heavy lift market where we are highly competitive. The Angara 1.2 vehicle is a lighter class payload vehicle, and it would be launching from Plesetsk, the northern launch site, and it's well suited for the 3,000 kilogram and below satellite payload class. Eventually, the Proton vehicle will transition away, but it's a good value proposition for mass per dollar into orbit, and we expect the first launch to occur in the 2019-2020 timeframe.
The IntelSat-31 mission team is composed of representatives from ILS, Khrushchev, IntelSat, and SSL. We now hear a combined greeting from the IntelSat-31 joint mission team.
Behind me, you can see Proton M integrated launch vehicle carrying IntelSat DLA-2 spacecraft, also known by its commercial designation IntelSat-31. The flight hardware is already installed at the launch complex, which means that in a matter of a couple of days, we will have the long-awaited launch. All that has been made possible thanks to a well-coordinated, extensive work carried out by spacecraft manufacturer Loral, by the customer IntelSat, and Khrushchev Space Center specialists.
We have worked that since 3 years, and now we are ready for this mission, and I want to thank all the team who have worked hard for us to be ready. first IntelSat for the confidence they put in ILS, Khrunichev and the Proton, and second for Loral with preparation of this wonderful satellite. And obviously all the team here, Khrunichev, DB Salyut and all the other ones, thank you all very much.
It's great to be here at the launch pad making our final preparations for the launch of DLA-2, preparing to match up with its sister satellite that we launched almost 2 years ago. And for that, I'd like to thank ILS, Khrunichev, and our spacecraft manufacturer, SSL, for making a fine spacecraft.
I'd like to thank everyone involved in this launch, IntelSat, Khrunichev, DB Salyut, and of course the team members here on the campaign from Space Systems Loral. This is our 28th launch on the Proton launch vehicle. We have 3 other launches in preparation with Khrunichev on the Proton launch vehicle, and these are for launches in 2016 and 2017. So we're pleased once again to launch here at the Baikonur Cosmodrome and to put the IntelSat DLA-2 satellite into orbit and do what we can to help our customers and our partners in the launch of this satellite.
I would like to extend my special thanks to Khrunichev Space Center specialists. This year we celebrate 100 years anniversary of our company. I would like to wish prosperity and long years of service to our company.
So now we're ready. Go Proton, go BRISM, and go IntelSat DLA-2.
So, John, this is the first Phase 4 mission with the IntelSat-31 satellite. What does that mean in terms of performance for this mission and for future missions that might use the same Phase 4?
Well, Proton has been evolving since the 1990s with several phased improvements, the latest being this Phase 4 improvement. Now, the Phase 4 ones involve the use of more extensive use of composites, some lighter weight but higher strength aluminum metallic structures, as well as some high precision tooling in order to optimize design. All that has led to another 150 kilograms of a performance increase that ILS and Proton can deliver to our customers.
Great, thanks. So we're now at the point in the mission where the BRISM upper stage has just completed its first burn, and 4 more burns or a total of 5 are required before spacecraft separation. So, John, do you have an update on the mission right now?
So at this point, the first burn of the BRISM should have occurred, and we're waiting to hear confirmation from Baikonur that the main engine cutoff has occurred as scheduled. Soon after that, it will go out of view. But everything up to date has seemed to indicate that the mission is proceeding nominally as it moves along its flight path.
Great, thank you. So this concludes our live coverage of the ILS Proton launch of the IntelSat-31 satellite. Please continue to check back with us through ilslaunch.com, the Facebook page or the Twitter page, and for regular updates. And I'd like to thank John. Thank you, John Palme, for joining me again on today's program.
My pleasure as always.
So to all of the teams working on the IntelSat-31 mission and all of our partners and customers around the world, we thank you very much for watching today.
Hey guys, I'm Bottom25. That was the launch of IntelSat-31. That was the launch of IntelSat. Goodbye.